Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Union said to be in the dark regarding the restructuring of LIAT. This story takes the lead in our 937th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 8th September 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. The Waterfront and Allied Workers Union, WAWU, says its members expressed concern at being kept in the dark regarding the restructuring of the cash-strapped regional airline LIAT. In July, a high court in Antigua and Barbuda granted a petition allowing for the reorganization of the airline, the appointment of an administrator, as well as staying all proceedings relating to the liquidation of the company. The High Court in St. John's granted the petition as the Gaston Brown administration moved ahead with its efforts to reorganize the airline, which owes creditors in excess of $100 million. The WAW's Secretary-Treasurer Curtis Augustus said the workers of LIAT here are concerned because there is no information and therefore they are at a disadvantage. The one-time senior official of the Caribbean Congress of Labour, the CCL, said the union here is awaiting word from the administrator because he did indicate to us that he had to do some research of his own before getting back to us. According to the new reorganizational plan, a copy of which had been obtained by the CMC, Antigua and Barbuda is proposing reinvesting $108 million, with St. John's indicating that under the new plan it is prepared to underwrite up to 50% of the required capitalization. The Companies Act of Antigua and Barbuda allows for the appointment of an administrator who will be the sole representative of the LIAT estate. All decisions involving the affairs of LIAT would be taken exclusively by the administrator and not the directors or shareholders. The main responsibility of the administrator would be to reorganize the company by cutting liabilities and realigning expenses. The administrator would have full powers to negotiate terms with creditors, including agreement to reduce sums payable. Prime Minister Brown, in an interview with the CMC, said that the reorganized LIAT 1974 Limited would be different from a restructured entity. The Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines governments, former shareholders in the airline, had in July agreed to sell their shares to accommodate the new reorganizational plan outlined by Antigua and Barbuda. Dominica is the other major shareholder government. In other news, 2 other GCOM staff have appeared before magistrate on allegations of electoral fraud. More details in this report from Travis Chase of HGP Nightly News.
As part of an investigation into alleged electoral fraud at the March 2 polls, 2 other GCOM staff have been charged and appeared before Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan at the Georgetown Magistrates Court on Monday morning. Enrique Livan, who served as clerical assistant in the District 4 office during the March 2 polls, is charged with allegedly manipulating the numbers of the SOPs so that they reflected fraudulent numbers for District 4. He was released on $150,000 bail. Appearing for Mr. Livan is attorney at law UC Anderson.
And we get an opportunity to put our version of events out there and to interrogate the veracity of the state's case. Our answers will be out there. Secondly, I want to make something very clear. At no point in time has Mr. Livan admitted any of the allegations made against him. Mr. Livan is innocent of the allegations made against him, and even when tremendous pressure was brought to bear on him, including being questioned in the dark of night at 9 p.m. on an empty stomach, this young man did not flinch and he did not fail. He was there alone. He was told a number of things, as you've heard in the press releases, and I am maintaining that he is innocent. Those are the instructions given to me by my client Nazima. And on the appropriate day, at the appropriate time, Mr. Livan will walk from these courts in the same way he's walking from them now, as a free citizen of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
Sheffer, in February, another employee of the Guyana Elections Commission has been charged with 2 counts to defraud the people of Guyana in her position as a clerk. Ms. February was released on $300,000 bail. As in the case of Mr. Mingo, the state objected to bail being granted. Mr. Anderson spoke about this.
Mr. Tariq Mohammed objected to bail on the grounds that my clients, Mr. Livan and Ms. February, are likely to interfere with witnesses having regard to the fact that they work at GCOM. Mr. Mohammed also objected to bail on the basis that such an offense is grave and serious. Mr. Tariq Mohammed, my learned friend, of course, and counsel, objected to bail, citing a report made by former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Mr. Bruce Golding, that Mr. Bruce Golding has never seen such a transparent attempt at rigging an election. Those were, in summary, the gist of the objections raised by Mr. Tariq Mohammed.
February had been detained along with Carolyn Duncan, Michelle Miller, Enrique Livan, and returning officer Claremont Mingo.
On today's date, I wish to, on behalf of my clients, express sincere gratitude for the ruling of Her Worship Magistrate Anne McLennan in relation to granting bail. We are pleased, we are relieved, and we are blessed by her ruling. We are, of course, a little bit taken aback, as everyone is, by the citation of Bruce Golding's report and the comments he made in his Commonwealth Observer's report as the basis for objecting to bail. We look forward to our day in court and an opportunity to clear our clients' names.
Both Livan and February were ordered to return to court on the 25th of September. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
There is nothing illegal about the recent transfers of high-ranking police officers. In the same light, the Alliance for Change is calling for police excesses to be stopped immediately. More in this report from Travis Chase again.
Up to 3 p.m. on Friday, Commissioner of Police Actor Nigel Hoppy did not respond to a letter dispatched to his office by APNU AFC Executive Aubrey Norton on behalf of Opposition Leader Joseph Harmon, requesting a meeting to discuss urgent matters relating to the Guyana Police Force, Citizen Matter, and others. Harmon requested that meeting be held before Monday the 7th of September. In the meantime, though, it is the view of leader of the Alliance for Change and the former Minister of Public Security, Kemrad Ramjatan, that the recent actions by the Guyana Police Force, particularly the Criminal Investigations Department at Ivleri, can only be viewed as police excesses and must be stopped. Ramjatan was speaking at a virtual press conference.
It is quite evident that members within the new leadership of the CID in the Guyana Police Force have made a complete somersault on well-known best practices and legal positions concerning arrest and detention of members of the public, especially members out of GCOM. This kind of conduct, or misconduct preferably, will only anger the public and cause a severe deterioration of community-police relations, which we had striven hard to realize. The AFC demands that these police excesses be halted forthwith.
Mr. Ramjatan posited that the police's action now goes against everything they would have learnt through the many trainings they would have received under police reform initiatives undertaken when the David Grant administration had been in power.
The treatment meted out to Mr. Mingo, Enrique Livan, Michelle Miller, Carolyn Duncan, Duarte Hetzberger, and a few others are especially sordid. Held for unduly long hours for alleged offenses which are all bailable, held without there being the presence of their attorneys of law, and in very oppressive circumstances, are a retrograde step away from the professionalism which was inputted during the last administration.
Recently, the police force shifted around most of its ranks at the top brass. Some officers were not happy about those transfers, but according to the former public security minister, there is nothing illegal about the transfers.
Well, the operational matters generally are done by the Commissioner of Police and the leadership therein that are around him, giving him their expert advice and so on. And if indeed that there are transfers within the major crimes unit and other homicide unit, fraud unit, and whatever other CID units there are, that will be totally lawful once done by the commissioner or acting commissioner.
Ramjatan did stress, though, that the transfers must come solely from the office of the Commissioner of Police.
But to see transfers like that and so on, Mr. Blenheim coming back, Caesar coming back, well, you don't have any law that is against that. That is totally within the legal course of the operational activities of the commissioner and acting commissioner.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
There would have to be an agreement between companies as to how they proceed after layoff periods have expired. This follows failure to reach an agreement on redundancy between employers and the JCTU. More in this TVJ report.
It will be up to individual employers and their workers to determine how they handle the issue of redundancy following failed efforts to arrive at a consensus on the matter. As companies struggle to deal with the fallout from COVID-19, many laid off workers to reduce expenses. However, the 120-day layoff period allowed under local labor laws before redundancy payments must be made has now expired at many of these companies, with them unable to recall workers or pay them. Unions and employers were in talks to find a middle ground which would prevent redundancies. President of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, Helene Davis White, told our news center that the talks did not produce a consensus.
Most of us have come to an understanding that the best way of dealing with it is by individual companies having discussions with their workers and unions as to what measures can be put in place to ensure that companies in this period may not have to make such payments and that workers will not make such claims, because there seems to be a view that these payments are automatic. Workers have to make the claims.
Mrs. Davis White says some companies have already had discussions with workers and decided on a way forward. Meanwhile, she says the Labour Ministry has established a task force to look at issues arising out of the pandemic.
That task force, I expect, may be delayed by virtue of the elections that have now been announced, but originally the time for completion of the work of the task force was set for the end of September. It's left to be seen whether that will have to be changed, seeing that elections have intervened.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.